MasterCard, Visa, eBay, payments firm Stripe have all pulled out of Facebook's cryptocurrency project Libra. Their first move, reported in the Financial Times this week, follows the withdrawal also of PayPal and represents a huge blow to the social network's plan to launch what it envisions as a global currency. No. The project has drawn heavy scrutiny from regulators and politicians, particularly in the US. And Facebook chief Mark Zuckerberg, with a silent F, will appear before a House committee on the 23rd of October to discuss Libra and its planned rollout. Now, regulators have raised multiple concerns over Libra, including the risk that it may be used for money laundering. Of course, a lot of that money laundering has now been stopped, and they need it to continue. Mercado Pago, a payments firm serving mostly Latin America, also pulled out. That now means 6 of the payments-related firms first involved in Libra, just one, PayU, remains. PayU is a Netherlands-based company, and it did not respond for requests for comments when this article was put out by the BBC on Friday. 2 other reminders of things that we've said on this show previously, not just in this show, but stuff I'd said back in CV also. Back in 2014, people with long memories will remember I warned Californians then of a potential issue of the elites tipping everyone out of California and having the state to themselves. Many didn't believe it. Now, since then, we've had water shortages, which is ridiculous. There is no water shortage, only a lack of investment, imagination, and will. Fires done not to random areas, but key areas. Has anyone not noticed the Rothschilds and Pelosi vineyards haven't been touched? Yet private pot farms have. Coincidence? I think not. It went from drought to floods, and then let's drown people out via breaking the dams. House prices and rent forcing people out of the region is another deliberate policy. Introducing gang culture into a region is another deliberate policy. Having the borders open is another deliberate policy. Now we have, let's turn off their electricity and see if we can force more people to leave. Throw in the odd underground explosion and tell people California is going to sink and we're all going to die again via the San Andreas fault. And yet the Rothschilds, Pelosi's, Browns and Feinsteins all remain there. Funny that, isn't it? When will people see they're running a program in that state? That is happening in many other American regions. Chicago's another one. New York is another one. Miami, another one. Another thing I warned of back in CV, of casinos as one of the reasons behind Katrina. There was a drive back at the time when Katrina happened by an Israeli-based business group who ran the gambling ships off the coast of New Orleans. They wanted to go onto the land. Now, American law in many states, might be all, I know it's many, does not allow gambling unless it's on an Indian reservation. And those that have casinos on their land means they have sold out their land and people for a Western-style gains based on pieces of paper. And this is why I've warned many of the tribes have been or are corrupted, certainly at the chief levels. American law prevented those gambling ships from coming ashore. Those ships had to travel three miles out into what is called international waters to then be able to gamble. And then a story crops up this week that the new casino being built in New Orleans has collapsed and killed some people. But how can they do that? Well, first, you have to move the occupants of the land out. Then they make sure they don't have the funds to rebuild back on their land. Then what happens next is various brown envelopes are passed on to local politicians, and then they create a bill that this land is no longer habitable and needs to be rezoned. In comes some ancient tribe that lived there once. They just so happen to remember it and stake a claim to the land, which is then given back to them under conditions, and then they build the casino. That is what happened in New Orleans. Florida will be next.